Thank you for joining me tonight, this Sunday night. You could have been elsewhere and doing other things. Tonight, my guest is no stranger to the people of Nevis. He is the former leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, and he served as the island's premier from 2006 until 2013. He served during a time when the world was in recession, worst recession ever. Markets crashed in America. And if that wasn't enough, then there were hurricanes that caused the closure of the Four Seasons Resort. And I break all that down to you because with all the challenges, the Honorable Joseph Parry was still able to keep Nevis afloat. He was still able to do so much. And we will get into some of those accomplishments. He did not have $500 million from St. Kitts at his disposal. A matter of fact, not 1 cent from my recollection, and I stand to be corrected, but we call him the Miracle Man. Mr. Parry, welcome to the program. I'm happy to have you.
Thank you, and I'm very happy to be in your program.
All right. Well, where do I begin? So much is happening on Nevis. But first, Honorable Parry, we're still in the celebration mode of the nation's independence. And I am sure you would have done some reflection. 40 years of independence. What does this mean to you and your thoughts on where we are today?
Well, I would say that it's very interesting because when you look at Nevis 40 years ago, you would see a great difference to what it is today. Most people don't remember. Mm-hmm. But 40 years ago, we had an airport that was not lighted. We had rough roads. We had very little water, poor electricity supply. Basically, no payday. Mm-hmm. People depended on agriculture and on remittances from abroad, as well as going over to St. Kitts to work. It was a terrible situation, very desperate, especially if you remember that 10 years before that, in 1970, the Christina went down.
Wow.
And many of our civil servants drowned on that boat, teachers and other civil servants. And people were so terrified that many left and went to the Virgin Islands, went to the United States, to Canada, to get away from the desolation and the terror of that day, 1st of August 1970. So today, at least we have good services. We have water, though we have problems there right now. We have electricity. The roads are much improved. And you have a payday. So Nevis has come a long way. And I must say, very much so under the Nevis Reformation Party, because they were able to change things around. They were able to establish the sixth form, which has been very, very instrumental in providing people of a certain caliber on the island of Nevis. They were able to ensure that we had a full secondary education, the first to do that in the OECS. And, of course, the Nevis Reformation Party brought the Four Seasons here.
Yes.
Which changed the whole social and economic structure on the island of Nevis.
And those economic structures, as you say, the Nevisians are still benefiting from the leadership of, well, whether it was Sir Simeon Daniel under your leadership, and of course the late Premier Amory. But as far as the accomplishments of the Nevis Reformation Party, especially between 1983 and 1992 and 2006 to 2013, it appears to me that Nevisians are still reaping the benefits of what the NRP had done.
Yeah, I agree with that. And basically the NRP, whether it was under Dr. Daniel or myself, had the same policies. The policy of putting Nevisians first, of ensuring that Nevisians got the best, that they had the same standard of living as anybody else in the Caribbean or elsewhere. We ensured that our people were protected, that the infrastructure was in place for development, and we sought to attract to the island investors of a certain caliber take the country forward. But more importantly, the NRP sought to elevate its people, not just by providing jobs from foreign entities, but by trying to get Nevisians to start their own businesses. And certain things were put in place so that could happen. And today, we have a number of businesses because of the assistance that NRP did for people. You have people in construction, people in other retail businesses. I am told that at a recent celebration award ceremony in DC about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was Randy Jeffers, who pointed out that it was because of me why he was able to establish his business down there at next to the Four Seasons.
Yes.
Sunshine too. Could claim that if he's willing to do so, because when Dennis Moraine came to me, I am the one who helped him to be established in the first place. And when the hurricane wiped him out, I told him personally to establish himself again where he is today. So we have something to be proud of. We have a legacy.
Yes. And speaking of, let me just go through something here with you, Honorable Parry, because when I opened the program, I listed a few things you did, and it was why you ended up with the nickname, the Miracle Man. We can think of the Nevis Performing Arts Center, NEPAC, the community centers all around Nevis, the St. James Raceway, also known as the drag strip, a housing revolution under your leadership. Cherry Gardens comes to mind. The road network. You had the dialysis machines on Nevis and ready to get operational. And in order to increase the skill set in Nevis, your government provided skills training in Trinidad. When you just spoke about empowering people, and there you sent 40 young men off to Trinidad, I believe. And of course, under your leadership, funded college and university education for the numbers that I have. It's 251 persons between 2006 and 2012. And it was your government that arranged for Nevisians to get specialized medical attention in Cuba, Panama, and at the Jackson Memorial Hospital. And it was your NRP government again that introduced renewable energy by establishing the wind farm at Butlers. And I mean, I can go on. And you know what is absolutely miraculous and amazing about this is that you did all of this in the worst economic period in history, and you were still able to hire the Four Seasons staff from Four Seasons. You did not have $500 million raw cash, free money from the federal government like this current CCM administration. So tell me, Mr. Parry, what is it that you know, or what is it that you did that Mark Brandley, he either the Premier does not know or he's not doing? What is it?
Well, first of all, not many people realize that I did a double major at university. Most people have me down as a historian. The truth is, I had a greater emphasis on economics, on monetary economics, developmental issues to do with the Caribbean, public finance. Those courses, I deliberately did those courses because I had planned when I returned home to work in the public sector. I really had no interest in politics. But to get to the point of the recession and Omar, the hurricane,
yes,
what we did was that we organized a stimulus program. Most people in the Caribbean, certainly not in Nevis, were not familiar at that time with the expression a stimulus program. Shortly after that, Barack Obama came up with his stimulus program, and perhaps people realized then exactly what I was talking about. But what we did, we decided to put a package together of activities of work, and some of those you mentioned, like the police stations, the barracks, the community centers, things that were necessary, but at the same time provided work for people during that recession. And that is how we kept Nevis afloat. With the Four Seasons closing down, a lot of people did not realize that Four Seasons was bankrupt. The hurricane was a blessing in disguise. If that hurricane had not come, if Omar had not done its devastating work on the Four Seasons, that Four Seasons would have closed.
Wow.
And then 600 of people would have been totally out of work. What we did, we met with the managers of Four Seasons. We assured them that even though the owners wanted to be rid of them, that we will stand by them and we will maintain that Four Seasons brand. Patrice Nisbet, the Attorney General at the time in St. Kitts, was able to arrange to have a legal representation to go off to Delaware to argue with the judge there that the case must be heard in Nevis, and we have to give credit to Dr. Douglas for this, that the case concerning the bankruptcy and how to deal with it should be held in Nevis rather than in Delaware. And that was done, and we were able to get the money for the insurance to rebuild the Four Seasons and to reopen the Four Seasons and to ensure that Nevisians continue to get work on the island. Even before that, when the Four Seasons was closed, I negotiated with the management that they be paid early o'clock, whatever was owed to them, that they will be paid, and that the government in St. Kitts will ensure that whatever was due to them was given to them early. So that, in a way, saved people who were working at the Four Seasons and had debts, etc., to cover. And then at the restoration, we agreed that the people who work at the Four Seasons will have the first option even to clean, to remove dirt, etc., etc. I remember very well that I said that we wanted Nevisians to work there, and so many people were angry because there were some people from Santo Domingo there before Nevisians, and I objected to it. Now the point that I must make here, even at this late hour, is that I have no problems with the people from Santo Domingo. My great-grandfather, Clarence Atherton, went down there and never came back. I have been to Santo Domingo to see if I could find relatives there. That's why I have no problems at all. But in your own country, you have to come first.
Yes.
And for some reason, some people didn't seem to understand that then. I think they do now. And then when the Four Seasons reopened, and the manager then was withholding the tax that was due to the people of Nevis, I strategized. It was a Friday night that I will go over to Fountain and threaten him.
I remember you did. I remember that meeting.
Yeah, and I told him the money must be in the treasury by Monday. Otherwise, I will have to take action. The money was in the treasury by the Monday. But the unfortunate thing, Marvin, was that many of the workers at Four Seasons were angry with me because they said I threatened their jobs.
Oh, wow.
They forgot that Four Seasons came under NRP. I was the minister, Mr. Daniel was the Premier of Nevis. They forgot that the Four Seasons was closed by Omar. And the measures that we took to have the Four Seasons reopened and the name brand to remain in Nevis. If they had confidence in their black leader, if they had confidence in their black leader, they would understand that I must have known that the Four Seasons would not walk away. People do not walk away from profits.
Right.
People do not walk away from making money. And so I was able to make that position, but Nevisians did not see that. In fact, what is interesting is that the people in St. Kitts congratulated me for standing up for Nevisians when the Nevisians let me go. That was one of the major disappointments I had as leader of this country. But that stimulus package, in terms of the housing program, over at Cherry Gardens, Cotton Ground, Charlestown, and parts of Brown Hill, made a great difference. And people came from all over the Caribbean to look at our housing program because that Cherry Gardens was a real pearl in the Nevis economy and in the island of Nevis. We also had hope to use the community centers to help our people, to train them after school. And those persons who are out of school to get training in construction and other activities. You mentioned the Trinidad program.
Yes.
That was a great program, and Janice Daniel should get the highest credit for that. That program trained people, some of them who are today on their own. I think he's one of the police boats come to Nevis for repairs whenever they have problems by one of those same persons. The other persons whose name I will not call, who are today working on their own because of that program. And that program was allied to the crime program. What we decided, that a lot of young men had left school with no hope for the future. A lot of them did not have any proper training, and some of them were moving towards crime, criminal activities. And we thought that the best way to deal with that movement was to train them, even if they can hardly read, train them physically, let them do manual things, help them to learn to read, help them to develop skills. And we felt that it was easier to put them in a foreign environment, which will force them to come together as a group.
Yes.
When they return to Nevis, they will maintain that togetherness rather than doing it here. Apart from that, going to Trinidad would have meant something to them. So there was method in our madness, serious method in our madness. Unfortunately, I think Mr. Brantley ridiculed the program, and other persons must have listened to him. But today, there are other persons who are trying to do a similar program. And it is a program that is still necessary on the island of Nevis.
So what is he? When you look around Nevis, are you concerned about the direction of Nevis at this time? And again, everything that we have mentioned thus far, you did not have $500 million from the federal government. So again, how did you maneuver, and what is he not doing?
Well, first of all, let me say one of the things we did was to try to clean up the housing corporation. A lot of people don't remember that he was in a mess. In fact, we tried to have a commission of inquiry, but that never worked. First of all, we went to Social Security, tried to pay off the debts that were there, got some loans from them to do the housing. We went to the National Bank, made some arrangements for us to continue to have an overdraft and to have some money to spend. And that basically is what we used to fuel the economy forward. Again, using my knowledge of economics at university and what I had observed after leaving and reading and so on. So we were able to do that. Now, in terms of what is not happening today, I think the first mistake that the CCM government made was to begin to point divisions in the direction of St. Kitts again. We fought for a government of our own because we said we had the capacity to develop our own country. We had the human resources to engineer and to control and move forward that development. The CCM made the mistake of talking about fair share and wanting money from St. Kitts, and St. Kitts was making all this money and Nevis was not getting any. That was an old thing, 50s, 60s, 70s. Not necessary. What it did, it undermined the confidence of Nevisians. It caused Nevisians to lose that self-respect and to begin to reach out to St. Kitts for money again. And as a result, the Nevis Island administration became again second class. They did not look to the Nevis Island administration to develop the country for them. They were looking for their fair share from St. Kitts. And that was a terrible thing that the CCM government did. The other thing is, I think they focused more on power, the control, politics and the control of power, and buying out certain persons rather than developmental issues, rather than trying to drive the country forward. We had reached a stage by 2010-11 that we realized that it was time to try to diversify the economy. I heard somebody talking the other day that is diversification is only now being spoken because the new Labour government came in. In 2010, we were talking about diversification.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about geothermal. We were talking about wind energy. We knew that if we got geothermal here, it would change the whole face of St. Kitts and Nevis. And we were pressing forward with that. And the CCM in opposition opposed it.
And I looked when you now that now that you're talking about that, Mr. Parry, just about 2 nights ago, I was looking back at some clips of you on YouTube and speaking about diversity in the economy, and there was one clip where you had great intentions of the arrangement with Utico and being in Lebanon and trying to get new investment, new resources into Nevis. And you faced some heavy pushback on that as well by now the current premier.
Yeah, he ridiculed the whole thing. Now, I would admit that that came to naught. I realized that initiative was not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I backed off it. I had the courage to say, okay, this is not working. Can't afford to go forward and do it. But of course, Mr. Brantley, as in his usual style, he knew everything. So he ridiculed and said all kind of things and so on. And in a way, he captured the imagination of divisions. But today, people realize that the ridicule was just froth. Just pure froth. That he had no idea whatsoever how to take the country forward. And this is the problem, Marvin. Mr. Brantley's problem is that he can talk a good talk,
mm-hmm.
but he does not walk the walk. I do believe that serious investors are no longer attracted to Nevis because of whether directly or indirectly, whether truthfully or not truthfully, people don't feel, they don't have that confidence in him. Secondly, he is more transactional. He knows how to trade, but he doesn't seem to understand investment. He doesn't seem to understand economics. He how to put together a package to take the country forward.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I wonder if he really cares. That could be a problem that he has. That he's more interested in his image rather than making sure that the people of Nevis are benefiting from a government that we have here. And I must emphasize, unfortunately, we are not making use of the Nevis Island administration at this time. Let's say something like this. You get money from St. Kitts. The money comes into the hands of the government. The government builds roads, the government does whatever they do with it, whether they waste or whatever. That money is not circulating in the country, in the island.
Mm.
You develop an investment, you employ 300 people, you're dealing with 300 families. You're dealing with people who are buying food, who are building houses, who are doing whatever, and the money is circulating.
So that would explain. So that explains the $500 million came over from St. Kitts, not circulating, but just putting into roads and whatever else. But it's not monies that are circulating in the country.
Absolutely. And you know what? All of it wasn't put in roads. I don't know where it went. But that is the problem. You see, when you get a grant that goes into the hands of the government and is not used for development purposes, you see the CBI thing? I believe that we are making a mistake right now. I think the CBI funds should be used for private sector activity, not necessarily infrastructure, but business activity, so that people can have a sustained development if anything happens to that farm. That is what we need to do at this particular time.
Mr. Parry, you spoke about fair share earlier. You brought up fair share in the conversation. Now, when you were premier, what were the conversations with then Prime Minister Douglas as it relates to maybe not necessarily fair share, but equitable share as it relates to St. Kitts and Nevis and the financial arrangement?
Yes, I spoke to the Prime Minister Douglas, and I said to him, some of these funds that you are getting from the TBI should come to Nevis. And I think he indicated to me it was his initiative. I accepted that. But the point is, the passport was for St. Kitts of Nevis. So I said to him, maybe we should have a similar fund in Nevis then. I knew more of it that was impossible. You can't have a Nevis, the CBI, and a St. Kitts CBI with the same passport.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, or he agreed, that after the election, we will sit down and sort it out. That was the plan. We had sorted out the tax there, the thing tax. I can't remember the name of it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had sorted that out, and we would have sorted this thing out because he and I had a very good relationship in terms of talking, discussing, and negotiating, and coming to a sensible conclusion. I think there was mutual respect between us, even with the geothermal. We had many discussions about geothermal, the involvement of St. Kitts, the providing of energy to St. Kitts, because we realized at that time that the geothermal would not be successful in Nevis if we could not provide energy to St. Kitts as well. We would not have reached the threshold where you could make a profit or you could break even. So when I heard these people talking about the providing geothermal for Nevis alone, I just said, you know what, they're just making a fool of Nevisians. Because we who had gone through the ropes with this knew better. And that's the kind of relationship I had with Prime Minister Douglas.
And I was about to ask you this question. In case you're just joining us, I am speaking to the former Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Joseph Parry. Honorable Parry, over the years while you were at the helm, you were heavily criticized for having a working relationship with Prime Minister Douglas, as you've just admitted there as well. You were bashed heavily as well by now Premier Mark Brantley and the CCM for forming an alliance with Dr. Denzel Douglas. A matter of fact, it was very ruthless and shrewd back then as far as the attitude CCM had against your relationship with Prime Minister Douglas and his government. Labour Party was the worst thing ever, and that divisive rhetoric resonated with many across Nevis. Now, but now you hear the Premier is speaking much about unity. Well, he spoke about unity between leading up to the 2015 federal election and throughout. And now here he comes again, unity for unity. Let's work with Dr. Drew. He's the best man. Well, he said the same thing for Prime Minister Timothy Harris as well. So what do you make of all of this, or how do you see it? Is this just a funny visions that the Premier is speaking on behalf of, or this is all about Mark Brantley, to save Mark Brantley?
Mr. Brantley is quite capable of saying anything at any time. And he exploited the weakness of divisions to the Labour Party and that hangover from the rough days of secession, and tried to make Douglas into a pariah, which he was not. And that did not help us. It did not help the people of Nevis. Now, he was in a coalition with Timothy Harris, and now he's making advances to Drew and the Labour Party, the same Labour Party, mind you. Dr. Douglas is still in there. But, you know, Marvin, Labour does not forget. Labour does not forget. And, of course, Dr. Drew has to work with the Premier of Nevis. No, it does not mean that he'll go to bed with him. And so what is happening to Mark is that all the damage that he did in the past, all that damage is catching up with him now. And it means that it will be very difficult for him to manage or to make progress. The best thing for him to do right now is to back off, retire now, and make way for somebody else, because he has done too much damage. There's too much garbage attached to him, too much trash attached to him, and that will make it difficult for him to govern properly in the future.
Your party, the Nevis Reformation Party, has been through some changes. I believe Dr. Janice Daniel-Hodge, thus far, she's doing a phenomenal job as the leader. Are you proud to see the NRP as vibrant as ever as they are now? And your thoughts on the leadership of the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party?
I think that Dr. Janice Daniel has learned real quickly. Of course, she comes here with experience out of St. Thomas, out of the United States, and having lived in England. So she's got to have a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
She also has the training in marine environment and the environment in general. She's a professional. And she is not a young person, so she has that experience, having gone through experiences, etc., etc. So I do believe that she's the right person right now to lead Nevis, and she's doing a very good job. She has with her she has young persons,
Mm-hmm.
and she has experienced persons. And I believe that combination is what you need in Nevis. This thing about only young people does not make any sense,
Mm-hmm.
because you're throwing out all the experience. This thing about only older person does not make any sense, because young people come with vibrancy and with new ideas, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have a combination of both. And they don't have the problems of accusation of corruption. They don't have the problem of having all these hangers on and so on. They don't have those problems. They come with clean hands and can definitely take the country forward.
Now, Honorable Parry, the party went through a bit of a turbulence as well. Your successor for the St. Thomas's seat, the Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons. Of course, the party decided to cut ties with her. How do you feel, and what was that period like for you, knowing that you were the individual who introduced Honorable Stapleton Simmons to Nevis especially, most specifically though, the Nevis Reformation Party. What was that period like for you in all of this back and forth and that turbulence?
Very, very difficult. Very difficult. Unfortunately, I was not in a position to advise her, or let me say that I don't feel that she had confidence in me, because maybe I wasn't saying the things that she wanted to hear. Perhaps she was listening to too many persons. My position on that, it was simply this.
Mm-hmm.
Janice is an older person. Cleone is a younger person. Janice won the convention by democratic means,
Mm-hmm.
won the leadership at the convention by democratic means. What Cleone should have done was to step back, focus on her constituency, try to help the party to get into government, and present herself as a future leader. That's what she should have done.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she should have done. I don't know who advised her, and unfortunately, whatever advice they gave, I don't think was the best advice. And she's going to have a difficult time.
Mm-hmm. And you do believe that the people of St. Thomas's will be very unforgiving to her in the next local election?
Well, let me put it this way. They are NRP supporters. They are NRP supporters. St. Thomas's is the heart of NRP. And they will continue to support the Nevis Reformation Party.
There are calls for her to resign the seat. Do you agree with that and have a by-election or a fresh election? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, unfortunately, our constitution does not provide for that. I have difficulty with someone running under the umbrella of a political party, in this instance NRP, and then distancing themselves from the party. No matter what the constitution says, no matter how you put it, we all know that the name of NRP, especially in St. Thomas, is a powerful name. And that people will vote for a candidate, even if they're not too familiar with the candidate, as long as that candidate is running for the Nevis Reformation Party. And so it is unfortunate, and I hope something can be done, because You can't just run for a particular party and just cross the floor like that. It makes nonsense of the party system.
And in the next election, whether earlier or later, do we expect to see Joseph Parry out there probably one more time on the campaign trail, making that statement and getting back that seat to the Nevis Reformation Party?
Well, no, I can't promise you that. At the age of 75, I can't promise you that.
But you're sounding very vibrant and strong.
Well, I'm vibrant and I'm strong, but I don't know if I wish to be on the political platform. What I can say is this, that I am a supporter of the Nevis Reformation Party, and when any election comes along, I am here to give advice, I am here to discuss and dialogue, and I'm here to support.
Mr. Parry, your final words to the people of Nevis at this time. What would you like to say to the people of Nevis? The current situation that they're facing right now, what appeal do you have for fellow Nevisians and residents?
Well, I will tell the people of Nevis that the time is here for us to look at issues, not personalities. It is time for us to realize the seriousness of politics, that elections have consequences. And when you make bad decisions, you can't blame other people, you have to blame yourself. So we need to examine ourselves and ask ourselves a serious question. Are we going to vote for someone who has failed, or are we going to make a change? Are we going to fall in the trap that they say, oh, they have no experience? Because Vance Hamry had no experience when he went into politics, when he went into government. Mark Brantley had no experience. I had experience, fortunately, because I had to work with Mr. Daniel for some time. But doctors who didn't have any experience. So you don't fall for those kind of gimmicks. You don't fall for those kind of statements. That you look and examine the person and ask yourself the question, is this person for self, or is that person for the country? And that last bit is very important, because there are so many politicians now who are in it for self and not for the country. You must ask yourself, is this person for self, or is this person for country? I believe that the NRP is the party to vote for in Nevis, and I'm asking the people of Nevis to come home to the Nevis Reformation Party.
The miracle man, Joseph Parry, former Premier of Nevis, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you too, Marvin.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you had it, my interview with the former leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, former Premier of Nevis during the years 2006 through 2013, the Honorable Joseph Walcott Parry. Do join me again next Sunday night right here at THG Network, when my guest will be, well, you'll have to log in to find out. Have yourselves a wonderful Sunday night. Sons have been serving the people of St. Martin for over 40 years, and the food and service get better and better. From early morning, customers flock to the bakery for their favorite sandwiches, cakes, pastries, you name it. First thing at mornings and last thing at afternoons, folks rush to Carl & Sons for simply the best. There are two locations, Colbay and on the Punfill. In Colbay, the opening hours are Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Saturdays, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Sundays, 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Opening hours on the Punfill, Monday to Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. We also cater for weddings, parties, special events, whatever the occasion. It's Carl & Sons. Our staff, we are always happy to serve you. Call us today, the Colbay location, 721-544-2462. That's 721-544-2462. Or in Phillipsburg, 721-543-1059. That's 721-543-1059. It's Carl & Sons Bakery. We are here to serve you.